Good evening, my name is not Kermit the Frog, my name's Screenager. Welcome to the Campfire. With me today, we've got myself, no pseudo, so once again, our quality of the show is out the window this week. It's going to be me, Mr. Blankspace, which is right beside me. Say hello, Blank.
Hey folks, how you doing? Thanks for being here.
If that's too long a name for him, you can see his alternative name just scribbled in the background there on his whiteboard. And we also have the wonderful... Too late! We also have the wonderful Donna Prior, who is currently being a hobo, but when she's not doing that, she has vast amounts of experience in community. Say hello, Donna.
Oh.
Oh!
She's muted.
She can't afford sound. Okay, we're going to do the entire show with me and Blank. Donna, you're going to require flashcards for the rest of tonight. And tonight we're going to be doing it with flashcards about community identity and branding. I figured that she'd be able to gather that from the fact that there's no sound, but you know.
What happened to the cameras? Let's go.
The Camry Damdries.
Not my fault. I didn't do it.
Oh,
Yay!
we have sound.
Hey!
Just so everyone knows, yes, this is your producer speaking for everyone who is watching as well. I'm going to be working on the cameras in the process. I don't know why they're not working. So you guys just continue your show. It's going to be an interesting camera thing.
Try maybe a different scene.
So we're disembodied foreheads tonight for everyone. This is disembodied forehead version of Campfire.
You just want to capture my awesome hair color there.
It's just stock.
Yep, not going anywhere. Well, actually, what it is, we can only afford 2/3 of a stream, so this is how we're cutting it. Twitch has started instigating issues. I mean, this is what it is. We're going to have to advertise over these now that, you know, they've been bought out. Anyway, moving on. So for everyone who doesn't know who Donna is, Donna, say hello and tell us a little bit about yourself or why we've got you here on the show, other than the fact that I harassed you.
I have no idea why I'm here, really, except I didn't have anything else to do. But no, seriously, I've been working in video games in community management for about 7 years. I was hired straight out of a community on Pirates of the Burning Sea, and I've worked on Star Wars: The Old Republic, PlanetSide 2, Gods and Heroes Realm Rising, and my latest gig was at ArenaNet with Guild Wars 2.
I like how you call it a gig. It's like, it's not a job, it's a gig.
It is a gig, especially when you work as a contract worker. It's definitely a gig.
The joys. I've not done contract work for many a year. So today on the Campfire, we're going to be talking about community identity and branding. But what we're going to do first, we're going to introduce everyone a little bit to Donna, get to know our guests a little bit more in a section that we call Two Truths and One Lie. So Donna, we've already asked you to have 2 truths and 1 lie ready about yourself. Yep. So would you like to tell the audience 2 truths and 1 big fat whopper? Okay.
My first thing is I wrote a book. My second thing is Isaac Asimov wrote dirty limericks about my mom. And the third one is I used to be a club DJ.
I could totally go with that one, but I don't know about the other two. What do you think, Blank?
I don't know. I've actually.
That's the first time he's been stumped on this.
Well, ever. Like, no, I can see all of them. Like I can just see all of them, so it's very difficult to pick which one might be maybe the DJ part. That's like the only one that just like. I don't know. It's too far. All the rest of them are like, yeah.
It's too far.
But then you never know. I mean, I've got glitter in my beard today. I mean, everybody, you know, you can always be surprised.
Are we saying anything's possible? Blank has glitter in his beard. The sky could fall in. Quantum physics could fall apart. Yeah, it's fine. See, this is what happens when you get irresponsible with glitter, people. It doesn't seem that the audience actually knows what it is, but we'll leave that out there for them to have a think about. we have another section, a kind of icebreaker that we have with all our guests. That is, given 2020 hindsight, we ask our guests, if you had to go back and change the decision you made impacting you or your community, what would it be, and what would you do differently?
Actually, the biggest one is for myself. I would have started earlier in the games industry. I started this is my third career, and I started it in my 40s. And people, when I was playing games, like the Sims Online was a great game, and Star Wars Galaxies, everybody said you should do this for a living, and I was like, oh no, I would never be able to do this. I'm old. Who wants to hire me? So I wish I had started years ago.
It's not an easy industry to get into, and it's not the greatest paying either. Sat there and looked at that gig myself and went, no, it doesn't pay enough. You're just gonna go, just keep working in the bank in the IT dungeon, it's fine. What about yourself, Blank? You ever consider going into the industry professional?
I have gotten a couple requests and offers, but I really enjoyed the charity part of stuff. So if I was going to do it, it would be as a I don't want to get paid. I just want to do charity thing.
You want to be the in-game equivalent of a charity mugger. You just sit in the main city hub area going, give 5 gold to charity. Do you have 2 minutes to talk to me about charity?
Yeah, exactly. I just want to, excuse me, sir. Can I tell you about the starving kids who need your gold? That's exactly what I want to do.
Oh, Don the Hobotron. Next one, we have one more question that we normally ask all our guests, and that is, what is the moment, achievement, or experience in your kind of gaming history that you're most proud of? So for myself and Don, it's likely being stomping someone into the ground. For Josie, it's probably hugging someone somewhere. I don't know. And what would it be for yourself?
You know what? I was talking about this other time. Is that one of my favorite things that I know what I'm doing the right thing, and why I love what I do is every time I play a game, I use the same screen name everywhere I go. And like when I'm just sitting there playing, and somebody will say, "Oh, I remember you from, Star Wars: The Old Republic when you were in the community there, and I like that you did X, Y, and Z." Or I'll run into people in spaces where they're like, "Oh, I remember you from Pirates." Oh, hey, I met you at this event, and I learned a lot. Especially for people who want to go into community. So when I find people that, because of advice I gave them, they get a job, that's actually the personal satisfaction for me that I'm doing the right thing.
And actually, that somewhat segues nicely. I like the segue. That was amazing. Have you on more often? That was Don's segue face. If you watch his stream regularly, you'll see his segue face.
I'm going to do a giveaway.
That segues quite nicely into something we're going to talk about today. So an important part we find, or certainly I found, about building communities online, other than going on streams and getting photobombed by people and cats and such, is who you are. Building your community says a lot about who you are, and to some extent, that identity ends up having a name. Most guilds or communities, when you start them up, you end up having a name, and picking that name and building that identity around it is a big deal. So, for example, I run Afterlife, we're a PvP community. Blank runs the Viking Nation, and he's also currently playing with FOE, who are another guild. And communities and guilds have that identity, but it's important. But why is it important? And I think we'll start picking on Blank, because Blank's got so many identities. He's like a community schizophrenic right now. What I'd like to ask is, with so many identities attached to your stream and the communities you're involved with, why are they all important, and why are they important to each of those communities?
Your identity is important because it... Oh, I just got some crazy feedback. Sorry, guys. It allows people...
No?
It allows people...
No, okay.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Can you?
Sorry,
Can you?
everything just went crazy in my headset for a second. The identities are important because in business, you have your statements, that tell exactly what the business is about, and certain places are very strict and they have lots of rules. Some places make it fun, some gaming studios will say like, there's no BS here, but we all have fun and we work hard and we have a good time, whatever. The identity lets people know, first and foremost, if that's the kind of place that you're looking for. Some people like to make, a safe spot where people can be quiet or, have time to themselves in another area and TeamSpeak or whatever. Right now, Viking Nation, actually, we're doing an affiliate program, which is working amazingly. Viking Nation at its core is about healthy gamer. It's about, positive coping skills and being there for folks, and just the idea that you can improve yourself however you want in any way that you want, and there's other people out there that are going through the struggle. We also play games, and when people play games, we want to make sure that they have good outlets. So that identity, our identity is healthy gamer, and getting that whole idea out there, breaking down those stereotypes of what it means to be a healthy gamer. The next part is how do we reach out to other organizations? So like we've just with you guys, your organization, if we have people that want to play Arcade with a hardcore PvP group, we can send them to you. The same for Fist of the Empire. If there's a group that does role-playing in Lord of the Rings, we have the ability now to be like, hey, this is their identity. Here's who they are. If you identify or want to play with that, this is your pipeline. Like, go check them out. And we've already done the background research to make sure that they're reputable, that they're, the good people, that they're organized, that you're going to have a good time. So identity is a huge part because it allows you to pick out, these guys are for me, they're not for me. And I know some people will get upset that you have to homogenize them and kind of be like, well, these are hardcore, or these are casual, or they only do PvP. But you have to put them in some categories,
Is that something that's coming across in that blank? Is that you feel that identity in a Guildo community perspective is very important for recruitment? Is that kind of where you're coming from? Because it sounds very much like that. Is it can be to some extent a pigeonhole in people so that you can market yourself, or people can take a quick glance at you and go, yeah, yes, no, and move on.
There are those general categories, that you are your geography, so you're North American, European, Oceanic, or Southeast Asia. You are hardcore or casual. You do PvE, PvP, PvE, or PvX. PvX meaning both. They also help, along with your organization, they also help. I ain't going to be shook today. Community managers see, what your organization does. And be able to know, like, hey, we're looking for a PvP guild to help with internal testing. Or we'd like to hear some feedback from the role-playing community. What kind of UI modifications can we bring? So those identifiers do help. Again, some people will kind of get frustrated with having to, I don't want to boil myself down to it, but it helps. It helps to be, to have that category,
Mm-hmm. And Donna, what's your take on it? Why is guild identity or community identity important? What other things, or in fact, or do you just agree with what Blank's saying about that? Why is it important to build a guild identity or a community identity?
From a couple of reasons. I absolutely agree. From a player perspective, it's when I see guilds that are out there, I want to join a game and I want to go look for them, and I don't want to tell them I work in the industry because the questions will never stop. Or everybody wants to complain about the game that you worked on, and you never actually get to play the game.
I can't imagine anyone would do that. I have never seen that.
Oh my gosh, yes. So being able to feel comfortable and safe within a group, because not all my families and friends play MMOs. So it's great to say, oh, I'll be in a guild of people that I know and play, but most people my age, because I'm really old, don't play online games that much, unless they're actually in the industry and things like that. And so it's when I see groups that are out there that are being inclusive, that don't basically, I don't know if my profanity in here, so I'll not use any, but so they don't crap on people that work in video game companies. So if they can give feedback, passionately, and articulate themselves, that's a group that I'm going to want to be in, because they can be extremely critical, but yet, not a jerk face, that kind of thing. And that also ties into, as a community manager, like you said, is like, oh, well, I know I need some PvPers, so I'm going to call, oh my God, I'm drunk. I want to get a perspective of accessibility, so I'm going to call on able gamers. I want some role players, so I'm going to call, hey, here's the people I played Star Wars Galaxies with. We had the Creedles, and so I know that you're very much into the social stuff. Old Timers Guild. I mean, these are some guild off-duty gamers. They've been around for a long time. They go from game to game, but they're steady and consistent about what they do. So, yeah, forging an identity and being able to articulate it in a certain way and promote yourself is the best thing for a community manager of what we're looking for.
I think that's entirely true. It does, having a guild identity and building a community identity does certainly make it just as easy for the industry to pin down, what you're about and who you are. It brings with it a reputation. And I think to some extent within communities as well, something we've not looked at is when you build a community or a guild and you have an identity, it allows people within that community to pin something, pin their achievements, pin their history, pin themselves towards that identity. So rather than looking for an external point of view people in a guild will tend to be more cohesive, and they'll tend to continue to play together if they feel that there's a cohesive identity, that they have something to play for, if the name of their community means something to them, rather than it being, say, a Steam group that they can join and leave. You find, or a Raptor group that's just named Best Gamers Ever 469. I don't know. Whereas it's amazing. I mean, I should put a dot, a couple of hearts, maybe 3 X's either side of it. Yeah, it'll totally work. But when people feel like they've got something to work towards, you're going to feel that, or something that they've been part of, and they feel that they've got that identity, that you take the time to build that, then it makes a difference to the people in it. People they may not necessarily play a game within that community. We found, for example, we've been around for a while, and we've played multiple games. People have gone away, but they've come back because they feel that their home of online MMO gaming is Afterlife, and they've gone away. They've done things like they've come back years later, and because they don't want to play with another guild, they have the memories that they've established there. There's a forum, there's a Facebook, there's a TeamSpeak, there's somewhere for them to come back to, and you build that identity. Like you say, it takes with it a reputation. People feel they've built something, and they've contributed towards that reputation through their gaming history. So it has more than one impact on games. As we've kind of gone slightly over what we were going to talk about next in terms of the benefits of building a community identity, and to some extent a little bit on branding. We noted earlier, Donna, that you were saying about community managers find it easy if you've got a guild with an identity, they have a history, and it's easy to pick out what they're about and whether they're the sort of people you necessarily want to work with as a community manager. And that's certainly one of the benefits of building a community, is that you've got a history and you've got something that people can easily identify. I think that's probably true, yeah.
Yeah, and here's another tip for you, is that the community management field is very small in video games, and we all talk about y'all. So,
no.
yes, I know, hard to believe, but, much like in finding work, is that we tend to hire amongst ourselves, and but when we're looking for people maybe to make that transition into community, to taking, more junior roles, is that, it's like, oh, there's these people and these couple of guild leaders, I think they would be great for this program, or these people write really well, and so I know they're interested in QA, so we could we could look at that on taking people into positions. We think about artists, we think about, everybody of what people do. But another thing is so if I am working for XYZ social game, okay, so I'm not working on an MMO, but I'm working on a social game, I might go to my old communities or other community managers and say, who do you have that has a good cross-section of ages and, hits a certain amount of requirements, and then other community managers will say, oh, well, this guild that's in my game does this well, this well, this well, in case you want to, I'll get you in touch, or I'll send you their website, their Facebook, their Twitter, so you can see if it's a good match. So we actually trade off the guilds that, and it's not just the big ones, it's even small ones, because sometimes you want a really, really small, tight community for what you're trying to do. It's all very specialized in what you're actually trying to accomplish.
I'm just thinking of like the community manager meetup every so often, just going there with like cards with guild names scribbled on them, like keep, got, double, don't want, need. Yep. We're a trading card game.
So funny enough, in Seattle, there's a community manager drink up tonight. So it's where I could say, oh, hey, I was on the Campfire show and I had a good time, and the hosts are like this and that. So hey, it's going to be really cool. So check it out. So that's the kind of thing, is that not only do we network with ourselves, but we network and pass around the good quality communities that we find out there.
And Blank, do you find that there are any other benefits to building a guild identity or a name for your community, rather than just being, an actual random rabble of Viking bearded lords?
It's important, because if we're going to narrow the scope into talking about gaming, it allows you to rally behind what's important. Now, there are some folks who may just say, we just want to play games. Now these, and I'm going to be a generalist here, so keep the hate, over there. First-person shooters, I love. That's what I started gaming with. But a lot of those communities and clans, unless you are a hardcore professional, you're running around in pugs, you're just playing to play. You're not playing to get better. You're just having fun. For them, their identity doesn't really matter. For them, it's very the object that they're looking for. We're looking for a sponsorship. Then all of a sudden, their brand matters, their scores matter, things like that. In a lot of other games, though, it's really important, because if you're known as a serious role-playing guild, right, but you don't take your recruitment seriously, and you have a lot of people that don't, from what I understand, I talked to during the WildStar times, I talked to a very hardcore role-playing guild that had a stricter application process than my hardcore raiding guilds have had. I was like, this is wow, like we don't break character in these places, and art people have to do this, and it was very intense. But that, if you're looking for that sort of experience, you go to these people and you're able to like talk to them and ask them about that sort of stuff, and it's very rich, and you know what you're getting is authentic and genuine. For a lot of the other sections, it's they just kind of get broken down, like I said, by their categories. But it's important to describe, to have those, because just like we use keywords to search, if I'm looking for, like when I started talking to you, if I'm looking for a PvP guild that's respected, that's well known, that isn't out to use their people to go to make Google ad money, I take all these variables and I say, who is it? I go to you. That's why Viking Nation is affiliated with you guys, because you cover all of these things, and they're part of your keywords, if you will, if I was to search for that sort of an organization.
I'm going to put that banner up on the website now. Haven't done that yet. Bad branding. And talking about branding, that's something that you're prominent, but not in a way that I'm saying you're a sellout here, but you're quite prominent in that no, that wasn't a dig, that was an an honest to God statement there. I know I'm a sarcastic bastard, but still, I do say things with sarcasm now and then. Something you do have relevant experience in recently, on relatively so, Blank, is that your community has given you the benefit of a branding aspect when you've come to speak to sponsors and more corporate entities. So we're not just talking community managers, we're not talking social managers, we're talking about people who have a cash mo, dosh mo type thing. And does that have, oh yes, so does that bring benefits? Not that we're saying that you build your community to make money, but when communities get to a certain size, there comes a point where they do end up costing money to run. Some communities, they just absorb that through the community, and some communities, they take a more outward approach to it, and they look at sponsors to help them cover the costs and help benefit their own members. In some respects, identity can help that. And I think Don's probably in a good place to be able to give us an example of how that benefits.
Well, when it comes to these sort of things, there's, in the gaming industry, and I actually wanted to ask Don about this while we're talking about it from a insider's view, there are two big sections. As much as gaming companies don't want to separate them, the good ones do. There's your community side, and their goals and objectives are very different, or should be, than marketing and PR. Marketing and PR has a totally different approach. Instead of a grassroots, they have the ability to spend money. Sometimes community gets that, but from what I understand, it can be kind of a struggle. I find that it can be a worthwhile cause to talk to communities, talk to community managers first, because they are much more outside the box. They're not looking for a certain amount of views. They're looking for a certain amount of exposure. They're not looking for this many hits on their website for account views, sort of a thing. They're looking for people that are generally excited about their game, because organic hype, if you will, and interest and exposure is built by players in communities. And it's, in my opinion, it's just as valuable as putting your sign on a taxi, getting, Jessica Negri to wear your costume at a Comic-Con event.
Sign on a taxi. That's what we're doing next.
But I find that there is a lot more value, because the people that are strongly involved with your brand are the ones who make the websites. They're the ones who create content for you, and they're not looking for a dollar bill back. And that's normally when I talk to organizations. I don't talk to marketing and PR first, because they're much more strict there. They don't like to think outside the box. Community folks are normally like, we like that. That sounds fun. Let's see if we can do that. Sometimes they launch, sometimes they don't. My interesting question is, being on the other side of that, how do you kind of pick out, Donna, the communities, these multi-gaming communities, how do you kind of pick out the ones and launch an idea? If somebody comes to you and says, we'd like to do a PvP tournament and we'd like to host it on Twitch, what kind of goes through your guys' process on the other side? Because I've been on part of the pitch side plenty of times, like, I've got this great idea. Slam dunk. I've got this great idea. We're going to pass. What is sort of the process for you guys? Is it strictly just community side, or do you have to actually go and talk to like marketing, PR, and then bring it to the EP? How does it actually work?
Well, the first place to start is making sure that these communities aren't on your forums crapping all over you. So
rule number one.
There's the start right there. Is rule number one. Is if you have a bunch of people in a community that's just like, I quit, this sucks, F you, blah blah blah, then that right there, just kind of touch on a point. But I will kind of do the just to kind of clarify on a few things about what you said earlier regarding the role of like marketing, PR, community. We're all actually under the umbrella of marketing. So marketing would include brand management. They're working with like Twitch, and they're working with that's what they do, is they do outreach and they do the message of all that. And PR, which is doing your press releases and things like that, and guiding the voice. And then community is under that umbrella. Some companies, the roles never interact, but some of them we cross over. And one of the important distinctions, which you did touch on, is that your brand management, PR, advertising, sales, is really, their focus is acquisition. And communities and support is retention. And so they have their own budgets and they have their own goals. We do a lot of crossover because we're all in the same same branch of what we do. But we do the more grassroots. So we do, managing programs of guilds and community outreach, and working with, let's say, if there's internal testing groups, like alpha, beta, private servers, things like that. That's who we work with directly, and then we'll work with the teams internally in dev, for that. So that's the kind of thing that we're going to be doing. But we actually have quite a bit of crossover, and we can't do one without the other. So we can't have community without marketing and marketing without community. If you were to come and say, hey, we want to run a tournament, we do have to run it through brand, we have to run it through PR, we have to run it through legal, we have to run it through dev, we have to run it through basically everyone. Wow. So there's going to be things that we can do. So as a community manager, you're going to make your community outreach program. And you're going to spec it out, and then you're going to go for budget approvals, because it does cost money, not necessarily in dollar money, but in work hours. So first of all, you have to have your resources. Do you have somebody who can do this full-time, part-time? How much are you going to dedicate it to it? So there is a lot of budgeting and scheduling that works with hand in hand with marketing, because that's who's going to be determining where the budget goes and stuff like that. So. And then your actual final question, I don't remember what you said, because I talked too much.
No, that pretty much covered most of it, and from my perspective, I see things a lot differently, because from I would go to you and say I'd like to do this, and then I know that something happens, and sometimes I get a little insight on who talks where and goes what, but. I've always found from this side, not sitting on the inside, if you will, the community side and marketing side, on the companies that seem to be most successful, they do work hand in hand, but they understand that their roles are very different.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I can't do brand marketing. I can't do brand marketing to save my life. And there's a lot of marketers that are just like, I don't know the first thing about community outreach. But we are. So your question really is, so let's say you want to hold a PvP tournament, and so I would say, okay, great, spec it out, tell me what you want, then I'll ask you any kind of questions of information I would need, and then from there I take it up to my bosses and just say, hey, this group, they do this, this, and this. So I've already gone and done the research with you and gone and done the research. Okay, this is how many viewers they get on their streams, this is how many videos, here's where you can watch some of their stuff, this is what they did at this convention, they hosted this LAN party, they worked with Major League Gaming, all those different thoughts. And so then from there I present it up to my management, who says, do we want to support this? Does this sound like good? Does this sound like a good partnership? Is it a good way to use our resources that we have versus somebody else's PvP tournament, or a in-person event at, let's say, PAX East or something like that? So you're balancing all that out, because I mean, events and stuff like that are pretty much budgeted out so far in advance, and then there is a budget that's for community-driven projects, and then you have to determine, especially for PvP, because you do need dev time, as opposed to a role-playing event. I could pretty much just do that on my own, and then all I have to do is check with like the social media and marketing calendars and the PR calendar to make sure that by us promoting it, we're not taking away from what they're doing. So it all goes into a master schedule of what we're doing. But you can support communities easily from doing that, and that's pretty much how it goes.
I think one of the major things from a community identity perspective that we can take out of that, other than Blank having his notebook out, you might not have seen that, but actually his hands were going down there, so it's like taking notes.
I totally was taking
notes. That's the main reason he's on this show, is just to get people that know more than he's just like quiz them. And then so he's like got you in a corner, like taking it. Yep.
This is a great idea. This is wonderful. This is a great idea. It's like the guy from Goshkia. He starts talking. I'm like, this is all great. This is what this is for.
Gold.
Listen, for as much as we, somebody's like, how do I do a community deal? And they come watch the show and they get some information. I don't know everything either, and so when we have resources that are well-spoken, amazing people like Donna here, I want to pick their brain and be like, what is it like? Because those are more tools that I get to put in my toolbox that I get to use, later on in the communities that I build. So
I think one of the major factors, though, that we can take out of what Donna said is that when you interact with entities like development studios, like brands, your community is not just getting seen by the one person that you're talking to. Like Donna was saying, you can have multiple people, and any one person can take a quick look at your community and go, nah, not what we're looking for, don't like them. And that's a major, and what has a major influence on that sort of thing, well, from my perspective anyway, is how your community presents itself. Now, that can be a number of things. That can be anything from your guild name. Frankly, a guild name says a lot. If it says Triple X Sephiroth is the best thing ever, Triple X, probably that's not going to say we're desperately organized. That's going to say I like Final Fantasy and can think of a better name. Which for Final Fantasy might be perfectly acceptable.
Yep.
But for say WildStar, it might throw up a few flags. You don't know. It can be things like your website, how it looks. Again, I think we spoke about last week, Blank. You have things like people are judgmental at the end of the day. Everyone is, no matter how open-minded you are. First impressions count. And when you present a website, say that looks, let's be blunt about it, it looks a mess. That presents you as potentially being unorganized. And it can only take one person that's important to take a look and go, nah. When you're trying, or even one person you're trying to recruit. And that can take members present themselves in games as well. I think the name pretty much speaks for itself, but I'm going to pick on Donna this time and ask, how important is it when you're looking at a guild, how important is it how they present themselves in terms of things like their social media, their written presentation, their website? I mean, how much of an impact does that initially have when you take a look at a community for the first time, be it from your own personal perspective or from a professional one?
Actually, it's kind of similar. It is very important what their members are saying in social spaces, what they're saying on Facebook, what they're saying on the forums, what they say on their website. A lot of people will put their forums right up there so they can see that the forums are active. Well, when the forums have profanity, vulgarity, inappropriate content, terrible things like rape jokes and things like that, that right there tells me that's not a community I want to work for, no matter how awesome the members actually are, because it's all about the public facing. And if you want to make a really big impact, you're public facing. You may have private forums that are members only that may have all that kind of stuff. And if that's what you do, that's what you do. But your public facing needs to be clean, absolutely clean. And like whoever's running the social media, like on the Twitter, if you're saying crap about the game, not like you're displeased, because there's a huge difference. That you get put, it's like, oh, this person, and now they're trying to do outreach that they want us to give them stuff. No. Here's one of my favorite things that I find people is on the different forums or on Facebook or Twitter, when I find individuals who are extremely helpful to other players. So, like, let's say somebody reporting posts. If I see them come up a lot, that they're reporting posts for rule violations, and there's like, oh, here's a duplicate thread. Oh, here's somebody who's breaking the terms of service. Here's this and this and that, and they write it articulately and well, and they spend time in the newbie forums, the help forums like technical support, and they're not arguing with people, because people in tech support forums will argue to death over video cards, processors, and all that. If all they're doing is trying to help and give good advice, and they link to the knowledge database, they link to the other, I don't need somebody saying, oh, this is the 10th thread that we've seen on this, beating dead horse. I'm like, really? Those GIFs are really old. they're just as old as the phrase itself, beating a dead horse. So when somebody links to, like, here are some other threads that have the same topic, and then reports it to be closed, that's somebody I'm like, oh, that person is really cool. What guild are they in? What communities are they in? And then I'm going to go say, well, if they're helpful and other people in their guild are helpful, those are people I want to talk to all the time.
And from a community lead and a community building perspective, Blank, how do you tend to, one, do you agree? And if you do, how do you tend to go ahead and sort of encourage that behaviour, or how do you even manage behaviour with external members? Because I think we're generally agreed that, you know, your external presence of your community has a massive impact on who you draw to you as well, be it other players or other professionals within the industry. So how do you tend to manage or encourage that sort of behaviour?
We talked about this in a previous episode. I'm not sure.
Oh,
which
well, we're
one
done
it
then.
was.
It's fine. Let's move
Oh,
on.
No. But I'm going to talk about it again because it's totally relevant. You want those sort of people in your organization. The same way that Donna will find them is the same way we do. When you find somebody that's helpful and nice and will take the time, like I'm the one who likes to get in trouble in chat because I'll tick off the trolls because somebody will be like, hey, how do you do this? And I'll actually answer them. And then most people will be like, yo, bro, go to Google. And then I'll actually start crap with that guy and I'll be like, you know what? Google might be like 3-5 seconds away, but there's nothing wrong with helping somebody out. Blah, 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 you know, and then they talk. Those sort of folks, and I'm not the most overly helpful. I would like to consider myself a help specialist. If you want to talk PvP, you want to talk about increasing your skills or things like that, or even talking about community building kind of here, like if there are things I'm good at, I like to be super helpful because I have that knowledge and I'd love to share it. But if people ask me about stuff I don't know, I'm just like, there's nothing wrong with saying I got nothing there. So it's good to get people that are good at the things you're not. We have somebody who actually joined me at the Motika party. She's one of the community co-leaders. The reason she's a community co-lead is because she's great with graphics. She's super sweet. She's super nice. She's like 1,000,000 times nicer than I am. And I can bounce things off of her and be like, so am I being a dink here? Like, what do you think? Like, I need some, she's good at things that I'm not. You want those sort of people around who can help flesh out your community. So you're going to have the rabble-rouse or PvP ding-dongs. You're going to make them a Roman team speak. Don't go in there. It's dangerous. Your feels might get hurt. You've got your some of your role play folks who have they're like, we are role playing, don't mess around, we're doing our stuff. But it's important to bring them in when you see them, and if not, find out who they're with and find out if that's a community, like if it's a whole community is like that, or if you just happen to find an outlier. But I'm going to segue. Am I allowed to segue? Because I totally want to get to this last part.
Totally segue. Go on.
So
it's what you do, and Josie's not here to do it. So
I know, right?
Go.
Just recently, some of you folks know, I've been waiting for WildStar PvP to change, and we'll get to exactly how it is here, because Donna's community manager.
I'm not sighing because of the topic. I'm sighing because I can see the soapbox creeping in. Can you not see it? It's just over there.
Look,
coming in.
It's over. So I am a huge proponent of the game. I love the game. I want more for it. And it was funny. One of the old developers saw me posting criticisms and was like, "Why is it not okay for him to post criticism? He's not slamming it. He's not talking trash. I was being legitimately objective." So how do you handle that from your end? Because I know that there are people that may be discussing things very calmly, objectively, like, we're not happy with this, and how do you manage that, whether you consider it damage, whether you consider it objective. Actually, let me frame this a little better. There are folks who are going to just be outright nasty, crappy, this sucks, whatever. I'm sure the MO for them is just to ignore it or enter closed threads. But how do you handle objective and criticism of your product that you have to deal with that all the time? How do you sort through that? What is kind of your process?
I am a big proponent of allowing people, because anybody who's involved in a community has a passion for it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, if your passion is, herp derp lol, I'm not playing the game anymore, I'm just posting because the lols, I just don't listen to that. But, I've had people write some really passionate, harsh, critical stuff, and sometimes developers don't want to hear it. If you're working for a good studio, they want to hear it, but sometimes, it's just like anytime you're critical, people tend to, kind of take it personally sometimes. And so if you can get regular dialogues between, I mean, that's what we do, between developers and communities, is to, you kind of get an experience of knowing when somebody is ranting, or when somebody's ranting, but yet they may have a paragraph that is really freaking good.
Yeah.
And on spot. So the best thing, and a lot of times people say, well, threads were removed because I criticized the company. And what's really great is you get the guy that comes in next and says, I say bad things all the time, and I never got an infraction, I never got banned, because it's true. It's all about presentation. And, attack the topic, not the people. And I have no problem with people putting critical stuff on a forum. Social media is a little bit different because it moves so fast. And social is that, while as a community manager is supporting social, is that, it follows the acquisition and retention both, kind of thing. And it covers a lot of stuff. But when you're talking especially about forums, that's really when you kind of can, when people are, here I did this YouTube video of my criticisms, and we watch those. And sometimes laugh at them because they're terrible. And a lot of people, for some reason, want to do video stuff drunk. I don't know. But
that's happening, by the way. I'm totally going to do a review or criticism of a game. I'm going to sit there and just drink the whole time. Thank you for that idea. That's happening.
You're welcome.
Basically, he's gonna do, all you're going to get is a video of Don's chair with a voice coming from the floor.
That chair is great.
You have to sing. You have to sing. You have to drunken sing your reviews.
Wow.
I accept your challenge.
I'm an idea girl. But yeah, back on your point, I am very much about positive and negative, constructive criticism being out in the open, on the forums, and when people are critical, they say nobody wants to hear what I say, is I like to talk to people publicly and let them know that, hey, well, we can't read every single thread out there, and when you start attacking the team, it makes them tune out, and helping them learn how to give constructive criticism. And sometimes it's just very one-on-one. Sometimes you can address it in a whole thread, and then people will start a conversation, and it'll go off topic about, oh, well, I had feedback too, but, this is what I said, why did that get removed? And you can actually have a discussion about how that process works on a thread, and then you can say, okay, now we're closing it out. If you guys want to start this topic again, start a new one, keep it clean, and give your feedback. And then at that point, because, we're setting up a relationship and trust, at that point, when everybody is on board, that's where I'm going to take that new thread, and that's where I'm going to go take it to developers and say, hey, these guys have a really good point.
Yeah.
It helps if you actually play your game, which every community manager is a massive gamer, so that's not ever a problem. But being able to explain what the players are talking about, of why something might upset people,
right.
Why they're not happy. They're not grousing just to grouse.
Yeah.
They're grousing because they're passionate and they want things to be better.
And to pull back to that slightly in terms of the community perspective, the building community, Don, I asked earlier about how you encourage certain types of behaviour, and obviously I think it's safe to say that that's the sort of behaviour you want to encourage from your community. Now, from your point of view, having been run guilds, run communities, what's the best tack to take? I mean, how do you either encourage constructive criticism, or do you even, in your experience, engage that? I know some communities that are well respected that just flat out say, well, we want to keep a good identity, we want to keep a clean identity with this set of developers. You are not allowed to post on external forums. Just flat out not allowed to do it. These guys are I know some, for example, they're quite happy with that. They have that as a rule up front.
Yeah.
And how have you managed this in the past so that your members do continue to give you a good reputation and give you a good identity so that you continue to bring in the sort of members that you want within your community?
Are you talking about me as a guild leader?
I was actually picking on Blank, but if you want to run with that, then that's absolutely cool because that'll get him off the hook. You can see him backing away there. And you can pass and dump on Blank because he's got experience of being picked on.
Well, what I'll say is I've been in organizations where there was one person for feedback, and it was everybody would write up internally your feedback, and in the aspect of I'm talking hardcore PvE or PvP. It did not go on an internal forum in front of developers until it was spell checked, everything was looked at, a bunch of the actual officers looked at everything, critiqued it, made sure that it was legitimate, that all the Oh yeah, like especially in some of the hardcore organizations I've been in, it's a big deal. Your public face, even if it's internally to the developers, it's you want it to be spotless. So I've been there where it's like this stuff all comes in. I would read it and break out, be like, this is whining. This is not high priority. I would prioritize the list and then I'd send it for the final spell check before it got posted. There are some organizations that do that because you don't want that one guy looking like a dum-dum on the forums. You don't want the developers to be like, they will read your stuff and they take from it everything you put there. You want them to see what's important, to melt it down to the points, the talking points that need to be discussed, prioritize them so that they can do what they need to do, and leave them there. Some organizations, they may not do that, and that's why I've been in organizations that had a press blanket where you're not allowed to post on other forums. You're not allowed to talk in the regular forums. You're not allowed to say anything. You just don't post there. The only people that can post there are officers and the PR guy.
Sorry, go on.
But it all depends what organization you're with, and to me, it comes down to transparency, which is something I wanted to, in our last couple of minutes here, ask Donna about. We as organizations, whether you're hardcore, casual, roleplay, it doesn't matter. There's that level of public face and transparency that you want. You want people to know who you are. That's why I call myself Real Blankspace. There's not a lot of BS about the stuff that I do. I have no problem calling somebody out about something. I look at the repercussions for doing so. I judge, what this means. How I'm going to be perceived for doing it, and most of the time just do it unless my community co-leads tell me it's a bad idea. When it comes to being on the other side, how much transparency do you feel is good for a game development studio? Because we've seen everything. I've worked with Blizzard where it's like, we will take your first child if you ever say anything ever about this testing. And then, and we're not talking just NDAs. I mean, with we have a lot of indie developers who are very open, very transparent. We mess this up, we want to give back to you. It turns into some crazy conversations out there. Yogscast just was very transparent about their indie dev thing on YouTube. Where's the transparency line for you, and what, in your opinion, what do you think game development companies should be aiming for? Is there a fine line?
The difficulty with information, and every single one of you who's watching, who's in the chat, I mean, you'll go right here with me, is that when I say a developer, just a developer, that whatever department or whatever, is that if you have a developer or you have a tester that has signed an NDA and says something, when if you have whatever level of a person at a company who mentions that something is being worked on, or that something's coming, or of concerns, whatever the topic is, as soon as you vocalize it, and that means especially putting in writing, because I can guarantee that you guys can screen cap so fast it'll make your head spin. and then everybody starts. So if somebody's like, oh yeah, it'd be really, if a developer, so let's say a designer was like, oh, I was just working on this blank skill because I think it would be really cool, is all of a sudden now the studio is on the hook for the fact that their developer said that X was coming, even though it's not true. It could be something they're working in their off time, just for their own skills. It could be something that has nothing to do with the game, but as soon as they say something, so that's why there's not a lot of transparency, is that it's all of a sudden, as soon as somebody works in a game company, it's the Bible. It's that's it. And so then your PR, more so them than us, is stuck dealing with the, now all the press. The press wants to know. So all of a sudden they start emailing. People start posting all over the forums. Reddit, it's all over Reddit. And then people start, just saying all kinds of stuff. So you have to keep a lot of it. There's also, when it comes to scheduling of marketing, because things that go to press and setting aside for shows and setting aside for publishers and reporting, financials, all that stuff is so far, like, different quarters in advance, is that you can't say any of this stuff. You can't say, oh, well, we're Joe Blow MMO and we were thinking about an expansion, or we were thinking about adding this class, or we were thinking about free to play, but we don't know. You have just set off your entire company's process, and then your publisher is going to hit the roof. And so there's a huge balance. Indie is a lot different because indie doesn't have the same challenges that working for a big corporation. And this isn't particular to games. This is Microsoft. I mean, technology. I mean, really, technology. Is where it's a huge thing. So I think that people could be more transparent to, hey, I was just working on this really great story, or I just did some really neat designs, and I really like working with this stuff. Or even saying, when people are having designers and developers talk to the community in the spaces, like let's say on the forums, is like, well, why do you think X should have Y change on Z skill? So you can say, well, I did some math, and that right there is just saying, all that is confirming that somebody read the post, read the issue, is concerned about the issue, and that doesn't signify that they're working on anything. That just kind of says, well, I took a look, and this is why it doesn't work, which is a lot different from, yeah, it'd be great to have a ninja dragon man, Trogdor, in the game. It'd be great to have Trogdor in the game, which I think everybody can go with me on that one. But as soon as you say that, that means, bam, Trogdor's coming to your game.
Right.
I think Blank has one more question, which is going to sneak in quickly.
I'm going to try and throw it out there. And this comes, I don't want to have to try to get into it too deeply. Reputation management, for those of you who don't know, is when an individual or business, they do certain actions to promote or make their stuff look better. So this is not, and I may be wrong, I've never really heard of it being prevalent in the gaming industry. However, when you have an actual product, I see a smile, so when you have a product, one of the things that I've heard of is, whether it's the Foursquare, having people sign in and they pay them to sign in and say their product is really good, so when people use this app, then they know that it's good because they have a higher rating. That's an example of reputation management. Within the gaming industry, other than what I'm going to call ethical reputation management, which is basically community outreach or the stuff that marketing does, it's not going to websites and putting up posts that are like, our stuff is great, but allowing the press to write stuff about your game and knowing what happens. Do you see maybe in the future that changing? Do you see reputation management becoming a section under marketing where they have their own, people are talking bad stuff about this, we've got to bury that. I know that there are organizations, me and Screen both know of an organization that their members were ordered to go and like every video, go downvote every bad thing on Reddit. Like, they had an entire rep management section so that they looked better. Do you think in the next couple of years that with how gaming is growing, that we're going to see more of this? We do see it. I have heard some for phone apps. Are we going to see this more in console and computer games, do you think?
It already exists. Actually, the industry itself doesn't like it. For a lot of companies, it's not true stuff. It's dishonest, and there are also regulatory issues involved in it. You actually find it more outside the games industry, and outside the U.S.
Yes.
Because so much of it is
I
based
have
on
done
laws.
nothing. It's all lies.
Let me just download that real quick.
But I mean, so that's one of my favorite things is that when I've worked at companies, because I've worked at a few different companies, and sometimes I'll run into people and they'll just like, well, we should promote our stuff on Reddit, and I was like, that's not how Reddit works, and that is the struggle of community managers. Is that so? I had to do one once. I won't.
One once. I did one once. Yeah.
So it's just like, oh, go mention something on Reddit, and I was like, no, and I mean, it was just like a big fight. You need to make sure that we get upvotes. Tell people to upvote. I was like, no, people will upvote what they like. And so, I liked it better. That was the nice thing about working on like PlanetSide 2, is that we did a lot of stuff. We didn't post things ourselves, but if somebody said, "Oh, I saw Donna was over on PlanetSide Universe," and she was like, "Blah blah 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 is happening," and so I would go over there, and I could go over there, and I was just like, but you have to know how the community works. And so anytime somebody says, well, we need you to go to Reddit and make sure that we get upvoted and we get on the front page, I'm like, because we get that a lot too. Oh, well, you need to make this go viral. That's not the way the internet works. So sometimes, when people tell me that in an interview, because I get a lot in interviews. He's like, oh, well, we need you to go to other sites, and then you'll sign in and work with like Massively to get things pulled down. I would never ask Massively to pull anything down.
Yeah.
It's just like, you've just killed your relationship right there, because you just can't do that. That's just, There's a lot of people who don't understand the industry nor the internet. So yeah, I've seen it come about, but it doesn't really work all that well. And people and companies that try to do that don't do very well themselves.
Great. Screen, are we going to wrap it up soon?
I was just about to. I believe we've got a question incoming at the moment, but while the question is incoming, or we may have to answer that on next week's show or post-show or something. Why does my face look half cut? Thank you for asking a question that's relevant to our community and identity episodes. My face looks half cut off because we could only afford half a stream. Unfortunately, I had to take the hit. No, there's some problems with the cameras, but we're just winging it at the moment. Hopefully we can work something out by the time this gets to YouTube. But thank you for the question.
Maker. That's all that matters.
Exactly.
Like, hey.
But we're going to wrap up there, because otherwise we're going to go over time, and I'm going to get abused for it, because after I stuck my neck out on the line last week and said that we were going to keep things to time when Josie was away, and now I'm going to get it in the neck. Thank you, Donna. It has been fantastic to have you here on Campfire. Normally we wrap up with a bit some other different stuff, but we are running over time, so we are going to do the quick version this time. It has been absolutely fantastic. Are there any communities, anything you want to kind of give props or promote other than the fact that you're looking for a job? Fantastic community manager
I'm looking for a job. I know I'll be in San Francisco this week for an interview. I actually want to promote Able Gamers. They've got a foundation and a social group promoting accessibility in gaming. So they can always use more people to help. They can use more help with funding. So that would be a really great thing if you could check it out.
I'll just put that link in chat now. Dawn, have you got any community type nonsense other than the fact that you have a bit of news that the Viking Nation dropped that you mentioned earlier?
We did. The only thing I have for that personally is in an effort to maintain our, which is great, identity and brand strength within Healthy Gamer and that outreach and exposure, we've started an affiliate program. So if you have a guild or organization that is reputable, They have, you fit into the categories. You're interested in potentially getting some exposure for your game that you're playing. Go to VikingNation.net. Let us know. We've right now we have 3 live affiliates. One actually being Screenager's organization. We have one for North American Fist of the Empire. Both are PvP oriented, and we have one for PlanetSide 2. Oh, and Terra is an internal organic one. So we're looking for organizations that our members can go and hang out and play games that they're interested in, and still maintain that strong, healthy gamer focus and brand. So. Oh, goes with my glittery beard.
It does indeed. Thank you everyone for turning up for the stream today. It's been fantastic to actually have everyone on. Donna, it has been a pleasure. Blank, it's been a mire, but I love you for it.
Thank you
Josie,
for having me. I appreciate it.
Josie, thank you for producing in the background. Everyone in chat, thank you for being here. If you have any topics, opinions, any cat pictures, or any questions you want to send to us here at MMOBuff, we've got an email address. It's voice@MMOBuff.TV. Our producer, Josie, will go ahead and put all the links into chat if she's not lying on the floor right now. And I'm hoping there's enough time for her to wrap up. Other than that, next week we will be talking about keeping it real and conventions. We will have a guest on that we will go ahead and drop out into social media later on. Thank you all for coming, and hopefully that's us going out.
Sounds good. Thanks, everyone.
Yay,
Have a great
thank
day.
you.
Bye!